My name is Jessica, and until recently, my life had been fairly normal. My husband was everything to me, but just a few days ago, he passed away unexpectedly, leaving me completely alone in the house with my husband's younger brother, Mason. Mason was only 16 years old, barely on the cusp of adulthood. I had always treated him like a child of my own. Even before my husband passed away, I would fuss over him, remind him to eat, help him with his schoolwork, and scold him for silly mistakes. But after my husband's death, I started noticing troubling hints of things that made my heart race with fear. It all began one night when the house was unusually quiet. The day had been long, with neighbours and relatives visiting to offer condolences. By the time night fell, I was exhausted. Mason came into my room. "Sister-in-law," he said softly, "you should sleep here tonight. It's safer than the other room." His tone was protective, almost too mature for his age. I hesitated, and yet, in my vulnerable state, I allowed him to guide me. I went to the room he suggested, and as I entered, I saw Mason standing there, watching me. My gaze fell on my jewellery lying on the dresser. My heart skipped a beat. How could Mason have access to it? It was securely locked away, yet here it was, in his hands. I forced myself to stay calm, thinking I would ask him about it in the morning. That night, I barely slept. When I finally drifted off, I was unaware that Mason had been quietly preparing the next part of his plan. The following morning, I woke up to the aroma of tea. Mason was in the kitchen, moving around with a maturity that unsettled me. "Good morning, sister-in-law. Did you sleep well?" he asked. "Yes, surprisingly well," I replied, trying to mask my suspicion. He smiled, a boyish yet cunning smile. "That's because I added something to help you sleep. My friend told me it would help you rest." My blood ran cold. My own brother-in-law, only 16, had drugged me. I said firmly, "What you did is wrong. You cannot do things like this. It's dangerous." That was the beginning of my nightmare. From that day onward, Mason's behaviour became increasingly unpredictable. He would watch me in ways that made me uncomfortable, linger near me when I was changing clothes, and insist on sleeping in the same room under the guise of protection. I felt trapped. Days turned into weeks, and the village began to whisper. Everyone knew that my husband had died, and rumours about Mason's unusual closeness to me started spreading. I could see the judgment in people's eyes whenever they visited. One night, the tension reached a peak. I was in my room trying to read and calm my nerves when Mason appeared with a tray of food. "Sister-in-law, you must eat. You can't go without food," he said softly. My instincts screamed that something was off, but exhaustion and hunger forced me to eat. After dinner, I tried to rest. Mason sat across the room, pretending to read a book, but I could feel his eyes on me. Then came the moment that changed everything. One evening, I heard voices in the courtyard. Mason's voice, and another man's, older, rougher. When I stepped outside, I saw a stranger standing beside him. He wore a stiff expression and carried a leather folder tucked under his arm. "Sister-in-law," Mason said calmly, almost too calmly, "this man needs to speak with you." The stranger introduced himself as a debt collector. My heart skipped. He unfolded documents and laid them on the table. My late husband, he explained, had taken a large loan months before his death, an amount far greater than I could have imagined. Interest had accumulated. Deadlines had passed. The number written on the paper made my hands tremble. "There must be a mistake," I whispered. "He never told me." The man's expression did not soften. "Whether he told you or not, the debt remains. And now, as his widow, it falls upon you." The walls felt like they were closing in again. I brought out my jewellery, the last valuable pieces I owned. Gold bangles, necklaces, earrings, everything my husband had once gifted me with love. I placed them before him with shaking hands. "Take these," I said. "It's all I have." He barely glanced at them. "This doesn't even cover half," he replied coldly. "Your husband owed far more." I looked at Mason, hoping for support, for outrage, but his face was unreadable. Then the debt collector leaned back in his chair and said something that shattered whatever strength I had left. "There is another way," he said slowly. "Marry me. Become my wife. I will forgive the debt." My mind screamed no, but fear has a powerful voice. I had no money, no strong family nearby, no protection. The villagers already whispered about me. Another scandal would destroy what little dignity I had left. Days passed in suffocating uncertainty. The man returned again, pressing for an answer. Mason stayed close. unusually quiet, watching everything unfold. I searched desperately for another solution, but every path led to the same wall. Finally, exhausted and cornered by circumstance, I agreed. The wedding was small and hollow. No joy, no celebration, just signatures and silent witnesses. I told myself it was survival. I told myself I was protecting what little remained of my life. But survival sometimes demands a price greater than we expect. After marriage, the debt collector, now my husband, moved into the house. He was stern, controlling, yet outwardly respectable. To the village, it appeared as though I had secured stability. Yet inside that house, nothing felt secure. Mason never truly left. Even after everything that had happened before, he remained near, present in the corridors, in the garden, in the quiet corners of the house. Our conversations were strained, complicated by unspoken history. There was guilt between us, tension neither of us fully understood. Time passed. Nearly a year into this new marriage, I discovered I was pregnant. The news should have brought happiness. Instead, it brought confusion and a fear so deep I could barely breathe. I knew something was not right. The child I carried could not belong to the man I had married. I do not know when the boundaries blurred. I only know that it happened and that I carry the weight of it every single day. My husband celebrated the pregnancy with pride, unaware of the truth. Mason avoided my eyes whenever the topic arose, and I lived in silent torment. Every time I felt the baby move inside me, I felt both love and shame intertwined, innocence growing within guilt. A new life formed from circumstances too complicated to explain. The debt had been erased on paper, but another debt, one of conscience, had taken its place. I wake up at night questioning my choices. Was I a victim of fate, of manipulation, or did I allow myself to fall into weakness when I should have been stronger? These questions echo endlessly in my mind, and now, as I prepare to become a mother, I am carrying more than a child. I am carrying a secret that could destroy everything again. I am not proud of what happened. I am not asking for sympathy. I am here to confess the pain I have buried inside me, the shame, the confusion, the loneliness that led me down paths I never imagined walking. Life does not always break us in loud, dramatic ways. Sometimes it bends us slowly, quietly, until we no longer recognize ourselves. I am Jessica, a widow, a wife, soon a mother, and a woman who is still trying to understand how survival turned into sin, how protection turned into compromise, and how love, fear, and weakness became so painfully intertwined. This is my truth, and I carry it every day.